I'm very happy to be doing this with you today. I feel like the
Same.
topic is relevant because this was a question, a conversation had maybe 2 weeks ago with an individual. And I thought, let's keep things relevant. Let's make sure we're helping folks in real time. It's kind of
Yes.
the deal there. Should I just jump in then, do we think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it. Yeah, please.
So, what started this particular topic is a conversation I had with an individual I used to work with, and they are deeply rooted into this particular organization. And they reached out to me and said, I'm just trying to figure out why some of our best people are staying. And then on the other hand, we have some incredibly phenomenal individuals who are doing this silent quitting. And when they asked me that question, one, I was obviously trying to practice my actively listening with them, Joe. But then my brain was going, what a great topic for us to touch on in terms of why people leave, why they stay. If we could boil it down, in our 38
Yeah,
minute
exactly.
piece of
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, and I think given our focus, we tend to focus on the culture of work that keeps people, right? So
Mhm.
we're not going to talk about money, benefits. We're not going to
Mm.
talk about, sort of like the corporate things that people look for. And let's assume that, being paid fairly and all those other things are part of the equation, right? We're not dismissing that, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this very human experience of three things: being seen, belonging, and having the opportunity to grow. So, are you being seen? Do you feel like you belong, that you're part of something special? And do you have an opportunity to grow? Or are you having what I like to say is, I don't have 5 years experience. I have 1 years of experience 5 times. So it's like
Mm.
Groundhog Day. I'm having the same year over and over again. I don't know the last time I've learned something new, the last time I was challenged. So let's break down those three things. And I think we have a good habit now of setting up the premise first by saying this is what we're going to talk about, and then we'll just take each one in turn. So, want to start with being seen and dig into that a bit?
I wonder what would happen if I said no. I just had this
Yeah, I
thought.
mean, we would keep going because we
I
don't
just,
cut the tape here, right? We'd keep rolling with it. Like, well, where do you want to start, Kaylee? And
what
what
a,
is this about today? What's the rebellious thing happening?
I'm sorry. I just had this moment of what a great way to showcase facilitation
Yeah,
experts in a way where
exactly,
you go,
exactly.
when we set up groups
Yeah,
and we say, so here, everyone okay for us to continue talking about this? And in the back of
and
my
it's also your
mind,
intrusive thought.
yeah, I just said it out loud because I go, what would I do if we just went, no, I don't really want to talk about that.
Right, right,
But
right.
yes, my
So
answer
let me
is
define
yes.
being seen,
Yes,
since you agree
I
reluctantly.
agree. Yes, I
Let me
totally
set
agree.
up being seen because I want to make sure it always helps to work on the same definition with our sort of listeners. And being seen starts with, I think the most obvious thing is being seen for your strengths. So,
Yes.
some of this is really like, do I even know my strengths? Do we
Mm,
have insight to that? So, do you know your strengths? Does your leader know your strengths? Do the people around you know your strengths? Then beyond that, it's energy because strengths and energy don't always go hand in hand. You could be good at something and it could de-energize you. So
mhm.
where do you get energy? Because sometimes you want to get energy in places where maybe you don't work there all the time, but you enjoy it. And that's the kind of thing that lights you up at work. And also what drains you. Do people know what drains you and why? So that they can help you stay away from the things that drain you. And it doesn't mean work is rainbow and unicorns. It just means sometimes I don't have to do these things because they do drain me. And then from a really important aspect of, do people look at you sort of as a product, a producer, where you just produce outcomes, or do they really understand the way you think and how you process and like what your needs are as a person? And maybe that gets into the personal stuff too, that we shouldn't treat someone as like this, like the TV show Severance, where you take an elevator ride and it disconnects you from your real life so that at work, you have no idea who you are. Well, at work, you know exactly who you are and you bring your problems and challenges and you bring your personal stuff. So that's being seen. How do you want to tackle that one?
Well, first of all, I agree with that definition. I think
Nice,
to be
nice.
clear, that sounds lovely.
Prepared to shift if you
I
challenge it.
well, my and I wouldn't even call this a challenge. I almost as a question back to you.
Yeah,
Even though we agree that that's the definition of what it feels like to be seen, especially in the workplace. But
yeah.
how often have you witnessed leaders, especially, overestimate how well they're doing at that?
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
like, I don't know about you, but I've worked with people where if you ask them, they would go, "Oh, my team definitely feels seen by me," and they believe that. But there's something in there where there's an overestimation, that's just the word I keep thinking of, to describe where they think they are versus how the team actually feels about being seen.
Yeah.
Have you witnessed that or noticed that in your career with some of the clients or people you've worked with?
Yeah, I think the combination of the 2, so one the combination meaning they don't define it the same way we do,
Mm,
and then they overestimate what they know. So it's like it's deficient on 2 dynamics, right? It's like, not only am I not seeing someone for all these things that are possible, I think what I know is everything there is to know. Because I'm
mm.
not truly curious, I'm more judging them, I'm more drawing these conclusions on my own, and I've had fewer conversations about the meatiness of this topic than I think I did.
I also think people work harder when they feel seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I when I had a conversation recently and someone brought up a personal tidbit I had shared randomly in the last part of the
Mhm.
conversation, and then they brought it up initially, and we hadn't connected for 2 weeks. You know, this time had passed. I had
Yeah.
forgotten I even mentioned it. And then on our call, she brought it up right away and asked, "Oh, how are they?" It was something specific about my dogs, you know? And I had to
Yeah.
remember telling her, and she started off by asking that, and I immediately went, I mean, I don't know, it was just so nice. I thought, "Oh my gosh, this person cared enough to even pay attention to one random thing I was blabbering on about." And I thought, even just in those small ways, it made me wanna invest even more. And I thought, "Gosh,
Yes.
I should have paid more attention to what she was saying in that moment." It just made me self-evaluate and go, "I gotta be better at that."
And that's a great lesson though. The lesson of, I appreciate this so much, I want to do more of it. It's really recognizing your own shortcoming in something in a positive way. It's saying, "Hey, I don't do enough of this and I'm willing to learn and grow in this area." You
Hmm.
know, do you think that concept of like that person recognizing and remembering something, do you think it aligns with one of my favorite little books is How Full Is Your Bucket?
Oh,
And it's the metaphor of we're all carrying a bucket of water, and there are people who are bucket dippers. They take your energy by dipping into your bucket, so they drain you, or they're bucket fillers. They add water to your bucket. And I wonder if that kind of energy you experienced is a bucket filler. The person is filling
definitely.
your bucket, then you're reciprocating, and like buckets are overflowing instead of draining. And therefore, because your bucket's filling, you have more energy, you have more enthusiasm, you have more passion for what you're doing because the environment is nourishing to you versus draining.
And if there does come a time where something occurs that would actually be an action that takes away from that bucket, it doesn't
Right.
drain it fully because it's fuller.
That's right. That's right.
Hmm.
It's a good metaphor because in a high trust relationship, bucket filling and draining is ladle by ladle, can we call it? But then in a really, really like in a horrific experience at work, somebody just kind of like drills a hole in the bottom of your bucket that's so large that you can
Mm,
never fill it fast enough. So, you know, you could feel this kind of the water just rushing out of the hole in the bottom, and it doesn't matter how quickly they try to refill it, you've lost trust, you've lost faith.
so true. What about belonging? What about the second?
Yeah. um Belonging is this notion of, you know, I feel like I'm part of something important and special. Um, so it kind of bridges the gap from just being seen for who you are to now being included in a way that you feel like you're part of something else. So it's this notion of community at work. I'm part of my community, my team. We're all together. Um, Kind of we're in it together, and that only happens because people invested the time to
Mm,
build trust. Not just it's like it's this sort of matrix of trust, right? It's the manager or leader has built trust with every team member, and every team member has built trust with every other team member. And it's not a utopian society at work. You're still going to have that one team member who irritates you, but you respect them, and vice versa. You're going to irritate somebody or not be somebody's favorite flavor, and that's okay. But all in, you're kind of like on the same page. You're pretty much all pulling in the same direction, and you generally get along really well. And I think that's the sense of belonging and the notion of inclusion in the decisions and choices. It's not just things being handed down from above. It's having a voice that says, I matter because my boss listens, even if I can't make the decision, that I get included in the conversation about it, or they respect me enough to tell me why they decided something without my input.
As you were describing that, I started
Yeah.
thinking of an individual who exhibits those behaviors.
Hmm.
And it also made me realize that what we're talking about here today on reasons why people stay, but also why they leave, isn't
Yes.
that greater reinforcement of how much influence a particular leader can have when it comes to making people feel like they belong? I worked I had a client who was a large manufacturing client,
Hmm.
and the leader that you're describing exhibited these behaviors day in, day out. You could tell that the team would go to bat for that person no matter what, and vice versa, this kind of beautiful dynamic. And then that individual left, and the belonging in that organization dropped overnight. Like,
Mm.
you could feel it walking into the organization. There was this ambiguity, and people didn't know what was happening. And as with often comes with change, right? All these variable, differences taking place on the day to day, but more so people didn't know where they fit and they didn't have a person. Is that fair? Does that kind of fit with what you're saying? That's the first thing I kind of thought of as an example to fit with that one.
It makes sense to me. I think I've experienced similar things both as an employee and as a consultant working with companies that
Mm.
and maybe you've seen this. Do you ever notice some people feel more like the glue of the team? Everyone plays a part, but not everyone's the glue. I don't think
Oh, I like
like
that. Yeah.
sometimes it almost gets dismissed as a personality hire. And I do think there are personality hires, like in the worst sense, where you're hired because of your charisma, but you really don't contribute a lot. I'm talking about a personality hire who's like the glue of the culture of the team, where they play a special role of always thinking about how to bring people together. Maybe they have that woo
Strengths
from
finders.
Strength Finder, and they figure out, or the people who are the feelers from Myers Briggs who say, I want to make sure that these people feel like they belong. So does that resonate in terms of like the certain roles that people play kind of go towards the culture and the people?
Yeah, I actually think it goes both ways. I think there's a
Hmm.
personality piece to it that can make you someone that is the glue, to use that word, but there's also your ability to accomplish the task, to get the
Okay.
outcome, to push people to be their best. And the leader that I'm thinking of in particular for this example did both, Joe. Had this
Okay.
marrying of they genuinely cared about the people, they made sure they felt seen, but they also got shit done.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
to me, I think that's the magic glue. You go, people want to work harder for somebody like that. I just didn't realize the impact it would have on the rest of the organization, even outside of that team, when that individual left.
Right.
It was it was witnessing the impact on culture and why that person left and why others also did
Mm,
following. And I went, what an
interesting.
influence for somebody. Like it can go both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something we should touch on here too, which I don't want to lose, is because again, we're not saying all these things are easy.
Yeah.
What's the role of belonging on tough conversations? Like, in other words, what's your take on? Well, the more connected we are, can we have the harder conversations more easily? Versus where teams that are disconnected, they either avoid hard conversations, or when they do, it's just pure conflict. It's a mess.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair because they will get defensive, they will counterattack if they do respond, or we start walking on eggshells. So you and I
Yes.
have
Yeah.
experienced as well. We go, I don't want to speak up if that means right as we've discussed before. But I think those are the negative outcomes that can happen when people do not feel like they are a part of something. They belong to the culture. It also makes me wonder about exit interviews. And I don't
Hmm.
mean to go off on a tangent about this, or sidetrack us, but I think it could be relevant in that so many companies do these exit interviews, right? As people have resigned or they're leaving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
They are asking all the questions about what could we have done better. And at this moment, I'm going, why aren't we doing more stay interviews?
That's right.
Probably a
That's right.
sexier name for that, but going,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't mean a
right.
performance review or a check-in. I mean an
Oh,
actual
no, I agree.
interview about why why do you continue to work for Joe?
That's
Why
right.
are you choosing to continue to stay here? I'm making a note of that. I feel like we should do that. I'm gonna make a note of stay.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
really
I mean, it's and as if somebody's listening to this thinking or watching this thinking, my company doesn't offer that. Don't think of it as this big process. Think of it as maybe three questions. You could simply say, what's great about working here right now that you'd never want to change because it works for you? What's one thing that would make work even better?
Hmm,
And then how else can I help you be successful? As your leader, how else can I help you be successful? Those are three questions you can ask somebody every month to retain them. Because if you have a great relationship and they're answering those questions honestly, you're going to know when they're starting to veer off course to not want to be around.
mm.
Again, if you're getting honest answers, if you have the kind of relationships that earns the real answers.
Could I also ask, I really want your feedback on this because my style maybe is feeling more competitive in this moment. Could I say to a team member, if the headhunter for our number one competitor were to call you next week with the same job, maybe even a little more money, what would you
Yeah.
say to them? Is
Okay.
that too on the nose or is that
Yeah, it might be a little too on the nose.
okay?
I have a tweak
Okay.
for that one.
Hmm.
What would a headhunter have to say to get you to leave?
Okay.
And the reason for that, people might say, you're just nitpicking language. Let me tell you the difference in the question. My question is the message from outside. So it's less of a burden on the person telling you they would choose to leave versus what they would have to hear to leave. So it makes it
Okay.
easier for them to tell the truth. That's all.
I
It's a
like
little
that.
tweak. Maybe you work with someone who doesn't need that. I've seen a lot of people hesitate to tell us the truth. So I want to make it as easy as possible for them to divulge something without putting them on the spot. So that would be my
Really like
tweak.
that. That's great feedback, Joe.
It just puts the focus on the headhunter, not on me. Right? It's
Mhm.
like, what would I do is like, oh man, do I have to tell her that I would probably leave? Versus what would he have to say to make you to leave? By the way, then I'm telling you as my leader, the one thing I'm not getting here.
Exactly, exactly,
Because
that
if that would make me leave, I probably don't already have it because that doesn't make any sense. So it has two benefits really. It points out the one thing that I'm missing, and it takes the pressure off me saying I would still go.
yes. That's the part
Or
that
what would you have to say? What would the headhunter, what would he or she have to say to make you consider leaving? This is even easier to answer. Oh, yeah, I
mhm,
wouldn't leave. I love it here. You're a great boss. But to consider leaving, they would have to offer this.
mhm. I think that could serve a lot of purposes if you could find a way to
Yeah.
ask it using your words was much better, so I do think that's a great way because it would also indicate personal motivations that
Yes,
you might not have been
exactly.
aware of before, which can also
Right.
lead to belonging, so
Right.
look at this, I'm taking notes already from our own podcast, Joe.
How do you, Kaylee, how do you, like, what's your favorite way to create belonging between team members? What do you do there? Is there, anything in particular that you say, this tends to work for me when I get people doing X?
Establishing a commonality.
Okay.
My my initial answer to that is with all the differences of strengths, with all the different roles and responsibilities people have, all their own experiences, their tenure, personality styles, all of those pieces. For me, the belonging part comes to no matter what, the one underlying commonality that we will all share, agree to, move towards is going to be X.
Yeah.
I it's for
Yeah,
me,
common mission, common vision kind of thing. It's like we're in
well,
this together a little bit.
even more specific
Go ahead.
even more specific, Joe, so that no matter what, maybe we'll have one, maybe I should say it's two things or two commonalities, one specific to our team dynamics and then one specific to the work.
Okay.
So, for example, we might say, no matter what all the other things that take place, the most important thing is we will have each other's backs.
Okay, I got you.
On this team, that if
Yeah.
you can't agree to that, if your behavior doesn't demonstrate that, it's not going to work with us.
Yeah, I
Whole
agree. Having those shared
gut.
beliefs and so I establish those with teams as guiding principles, like
Yes.
how we're going to behave. Those shared beliefs become like a trust factor in themselves. Like if you honor these, you honor me. You know what I mean? Because we're honoring these together. So
Yes.
it's like I commit to having your back. You commit to having my back, so therefore I trust you more. I love it.
Yes. And to your point, when you do your in-depth work, you're establishing what 3 to 5 guiding principles or
Yeah, yeah.
beliefs.
5 is a really good number. 5 is a really good number, honestly.
Yes, and I agree with that entirely. But if you're asking me specifically, at least on the teams that I'm working on, we'll maybe have those 5, but
Yeah.
that is a absolute non-negotiable.
Yeah, I like
And
that a lot.
and
That's great.
it's easier to remember with my memory that I'm going.
Oh, all of us, right? People can't remember 5 things all the time. They can remember one big one.
Yeah, so
All
there.
right, let's talk about growth.
Okay.
It's time for growth talk. Let me define it a bit. I mean, growing is oversimplified in organizations to say you go to training classes, you get access to workshops, you're given access to online learning where we tell you to go take 10 courses. That's all. Some of it's good, some of it's not. But any kind of like experiential learning like that, that's classroom, workshop, whatever, is good. We're talking deeper than that. We're talking about, I feel like I'm becoming more here. I'm growing here. So I'm growing in terms of my perspective, my knowledge, my insight, my ability to take on challenges. So therefore, it's about the freedom and encouragement to take risks and fail. It's okay to fall on your face as long
Yes.
as you take a smart risk, right? Because failure is learning. Now, monumental failure is catastrophe. We're not talking about that. We're talking about sensible opportunities to learn, grow, and fail. And someone's giving you the stretch. They're giving you the push to say, take this on, give it a shot. And you're also allowed to experiment. You can go work
Mhm.
on other projects just to participate. Doesn't always have to be in your lane 100% of the time. I think that's a good way to look at growing, that I'm being challenged, I'm being engaged, I'm being encouraged to kind of stretch myself.
If growth only lives in performance reviews,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
already dead,
it is. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I
Well said.
totally agree with what you're saying there, Joe. There can be all these beautiful frameworks and opportunities for learning, which you and I are incredibly passionate about, obviously, that helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can the team members, can the leader articulate what that stretch is for one another?
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be the promotion, you know?
No.
It's not
No.
just what is their next title change?
That's right.
It's what is the potential project that this person is gonna take on and lead that they would normally never have had exposure to 6 months ago? I don't know. There's something in there about a more is that fair to say, a more specific stretch growth that can happen just for them individually that isn't related to promotion or title?
Yeah, yeah, it's about the intention, right? It's about being intentional about where you see there needs to grow, and that's a conversation. This is a good example of what you said before.
Hmm,
Leaders overestimate their ability to understand people's actual talent and strengths and also their ability to do more.
hmm.
So rather than assume you know somebody's ceiling, let them hit the ceiling in real life. Let them hit the actual
Good.
ceiling. And when they hit the ceiling and it's higher than you thought, take that lesson to the bank and extrapolate that lesson to other people and stop guessing. So let people learn and you learn about them through real experiences, not your prognostication and your predictions.
You are phenomenal with analogies, Joe. Can I just give you some positive?
Thank you.
Because I know
Thank
you
you. I
just
love it.
said off the cuff, and I almost want to write it down. When you said when they hit the ceiling, is that how you
Yeah.
said, and it's even higher than what you or they expected, let them go through it? I don't want to butcher
Yeah.
what you said there. I really liked
Yeah. I don't know what I say either in the moment. It just flows.
We'll listen to it after.
But my buddy Bob, if he's listening to this one, he's going to joke about how I had a cake analogy that was so terrible 20 years ago. So not all my analogy is sing, but this is a little inside joke about a cake. I'm like, training's like building a cake, baking a cake, and it was so wrong.
Okay. Well, sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. But
Exactly. Exactly.
that one hit me. I was like, "You're right. Push through that. There is no
Yeah,
ceiling."
exactly. Right. Push through the ceiling. I mean, let them experience it in real life and see where it goes from there.
And so the counter to that is why don't Or why are teams not as likely to do that? Because I've worked with leaders that go, look, I give them all the opportunity to grow. I have given
Yeah.
them all the resources, all the autonomy. I've offered budget. The leaders are going, I've given it to them. They're just not taking advantage of it.
First and foremost, time. You
Mm.
expect people to grow on their personal time, not in their work time. Growth has to be part of work. It has to be, it has, you have to treat it like what it is. If growth is really important to your job, it is your job. It's not go grow after hours, get everything done. I know expectations are high. I know budgets are thin, whatever, whatever. You still have to show the respect of go take a half a day to work on this project or this learning that's not,
Mm.
a deliverable tomorrow. And maybe it's 2 hours, not half a day. But it's got to be in the context of work. It can't be in addition to work. Then people feel like you're growing me for you on my time.
I like that. So you're giving it's almost allocating or supporting them to allocate time during their weekly calendar and go, not only am
Yes.
I giving you this opportunity to come up with a new idea to solve this problem or elevate the learner experience for this program,
Yeah.
but I want you to dedicate 3 hours 3 times this week and block your calendar off and I'll support you or I'll pick up the slack or I'll answer the inbox.
Right.
Something along those lines to give some actual
Yeah,
support.
because experimentation and exploration and like what feels maybe even pointless because it's not directed towards objectives still creates curiosity and learning and inspiration that you bring back to work.
Hmm.
So it's like let people drift so that they come back with a different energy, a different perspective. It's not all about, like this hyper focused and fixation on a few things always. Experimentation matters. There's that sort of downtime that leads to greater productive uptime, if you want to call it that.
Okay. So if we were to put it all together and hit our 3 T's,
Yes.
do you remember what the 3 T's I keep going through. We got
Tool, tactic, or tip.
Yes, love it.
Finally. Only took me 13 episodes.
That's okay. This is how we reinforce learning, Joe, right? The repetitiveness.
Repetition, repetition,
Of
repetition.
of it.
All right. What's our first T?
Okay, I have one. And I will try to keep this brief, but we all know my love of psychometric tools, again, could go off on a
Yeah.
tangent.
Yeah. We both
However,
love them. We both love them.
what a perfect example of the benefit of utilizing a valid psychometric tool. My personal favorite is Lumina, which I've mentioned before. But when you talk about making people feel seen, to me, the opportunity to have data that supports why people behave in the way that they do, where those motivations are coming from because of their own internal styles, their own communication preferences that are very specific to them. I am not a mind reader. I keep trying, but my husband would articulate I am definitely not. So I really rely on tools that I think are very credible, such as Lumina, where I can get an in-depth look at what is the motivations of the person and have conversations with them about that, which shows how invested I am in not just what they do, but who they are as a person. So I highly encourage people. I mean, if it is Lumina, if it's your case, I know you're an MBTI or Myers-Briggs fan. Whichever the tool might be, it's always more what you do with it and how you have that conversation with your team member. But for me, it's foundational.
I love Lumina from what I've learned about it through you. I think it's brilliant. I've used 10 other tools, and what I'll say about them, varying degrees of depth and sophistication, but they're all based on the same core, pretty much all the good ones are.
Yeah.
And without fail, this is like one of these things I could say without exception. Without exception, every person I've used these tools with have said a couple of things. They've said, that explains something I didn't really understand about myself. So, like, you gave me context, language, some insight I didn't know. And it really helped me understand how it impacts other people and how I interpret or interact or react to other people. So that self-insight and the insight of others, not only do they feel seen, they start to understand why they have conflict with a different type, why they have alignment with a similar type, and where all these kind of tensions points and collaborative points are. And then they bring that down to connection. It's like it's easier to connect better when you stop blaming a person for their style and start respecting their style and say, oh, that person's just doing that because that's what they need, not because they're trying to make me miserable.
Yeah. And how does it therefore become a huge benefit to you? Because
Exactly, because
the
we haven't touched on that. We haven't actually touched on one point of collaboration and connection. Belonging and growth together is you and I recognizing our combined strengths. The things you do that I can't do, the things I do that you can't do, and some of the things we do well together is this beautiful array of strengths that is one plus one is five. You know what I mean? It's so much bigger.
yes,
That's
that
an that's the potential of people who are seen and belong and actually grow. They do this in a way where it's multiplied. It's not just additive. So it's really amazing when you get it right.
so tip 1, use a psychometric tool,
Yes.
use it
Yes.
effectively in a way that shares for you and the other individual
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
team.
Perfect. Tip two, tactic, tip, tool.
Okay, my number 2, tip slash tactic is okay, it is number 2, and then I also call it the 2 by 2. We didn't plan that. But
Yeah. Nice.
here's something you can use during a check-in or during a conversation. I these 2 questions to figure out I think this works for scene, but it also kinda connects with belonging and growth.
Okay.
Can you answer these questions? The first one's personal, which is, do you know what really matters to this person outside of the workplace?
Hmm.
The professional one is, do you know what they want next in their career?
Mm,
And I
yeah.
don't necessarily just mean what position, Joe. I mean the exposure that they want. Are
Right.
you
Right.
crystal
Like
clear on
immediately next 30
yes,
days, next 90 days, not someday.
yes. What do they want next? So that's the first 2. But the reason I call it 2 by 2 is this. Can that team member also answer that for you?
Right.
This the exchange of all of this, that there's an understanding, it's not just one way. Can your team does your team know what matters most to you outside of work? And some people might go, well, it's none of their business. Work is work. But they could know a moment, a piece that is the most important to you. It shows your human side.
Right.
That
And
personal
and I think what they want, what you want next is really important because they want to know what you're excited about. I agree with that.
and or
And
what you
and
wanna learn. It shows, "Look, I don't
yes,
have this all figured out. My next thing is to figure out how the LMS is actually working."
exactly. Exactly. And for the skeptics, there's a small percentage of skeptics who think work is work and not people shouldn't know who you are as a person. Wrong.
Mm,
They shouldn't know your darkest, deepest secrets, your intimate stuff. They should know who you are. They should know you like dogs. They should know you like going. I went to see a great movie this weekend that was brilliant. It was Project Hail Mary. Why not
oh,
talk about what's interesting to me? And by the way, you should
I'm gonna check
definitely see
yeah, I
that
need to
movie.
go
It's
see that.
brilliant.
Yes, okay.
But I mean, a little what's your favorite, what's your favorite dessert? Because if you go to lunch together, people will order it for you and be like, hey, we surprised you with that. Like that's work and life. We spend a lot of time together. We should get to know each other and not pretend we're just robots who are working side by side. So
Exactly.
I'm taking that's my hill to die on. This whole thing, people at work shouldn't know anything about your personal life. Hell no.
Number 3.
Number three, this is when change is ubiquitous in the workplace.
Mm,
So people come and go from teams, teams get reorganized and refocused. Every time you do that, you kind of have to hit a soft reset. You know what the difference between a soft reset and a hard reset, right? We're not wiping the operating system. We're not rebuilding the system. We're just rebooting the system. And rebooting looks like how does the team reestablish belonging to make sure the new person can. That's the one you story you told a couple episodes ago about how everybody had a nickname and you felt left out as a consultant.
yes.
Belonging needs let them in. They got to be part of the inner circle sooner than later. If you wait too long, they're going to feel like you're the cool kids club and they're not part of it. And also, does the team have a sense of being seen in the organization? So does the team lose status when it gets a reorg and it changes focus? Do people now on the team think the organization thinks less of us? So we have lost status and we have to earn that back. Or do you help the team recognize that you're still seen for the talented, valuable people that you are? So it's really a twofold reset to get the team energized around these three things. So it just proves the point that this is ongoing. This is not you don't go on a yearly retreat and say, do you people all feel like you are seen, belong, and growing? No, it's an ongoing thing. And when it pops up, you have to water it. You have to nurture it.
I really appreciate the conversation and the tips and tactics you gave me during this particular conversation as well.
Same here. Same here. I
I
think we learn from each other, and that's why it's so much fun doing this with you.
Same. Well, I look forward to our next because I believe we have I keep teasing people with the potential of guests.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I am excited about what we have next on the docket and really appreciate the focus on things that matter.
Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. See you soon, Kaylee.
Bye.